Hey guys, Adrienne here from Adventures of Carly Ann, and today we're going over Oyaki, a simple but tasty Japanese snack. And it's perfect for this period of stay at home because it doesn't take any ingredients. Just flour, water, salt, some oil, and just whatever you have to fill it. So like leftovers, or red bean, that's a favorite. So the first time we tried it, we followed this Japanese recipe and it didn't quite turn out the way we wanted to. Because we discovered there's a little discrepancy between all-purpose flour here and...
So Japanese all-purpose flour and American all-purpose flour are very different things. Now if anybody knows anything about flour, it's definitely not me, but a little Google search showed me that protein content is very, very important. Now if anybody's making their sourdough breads or baking a ton of stuff during this coronavirus quarantine kind of thing, you know that protein content in your flours matters a lot. So with that said, we're using a King Arthur all-purpose flour, and that sits at about 11.7% protein content, and Japanese all-purpose flour sits at around 9%. So it's much similar to about a pastry flour in America than, American all-purpose flour. I hope you're staying with me here, but that's what it is. So what we're gonna do for our video, for our Oyaki video, is we're changing our all-purpose flour and
So today's experiment is using a different ratio for the American all-purpose flour and water. And then we're also going to try cake flour because, it's kind of hard to find any kind of flour, but pastry flour we couldn't find. So we're going to use cake flour and see if that lower protein percentage makes a difference. See how it goes. Okay, to get your Oyaki started, all you need is all-purpose flour, warm water, kosher salt, sesame oil, and your filling, like leftovers or red bean, whatever you got laying around. Okay, so we'll start by taking our 200 grams of all-purpose flour, a healthy pinch of kosher salt, and then mix those dry ingredients together, whisking thoroughly to distribute that salt. Then we're going to take a tablespoon of sesame oil and mix that with our 150 milliliters of warm water. And then we're going to pour it in thirds, which makes it a little bit easier to manage as the dough combines. But as you can see, it was still a little sticky and not really easy enough to work with, so we sprinkled some flour until we got it into a workable state. And when you can finally shape it into a ball, cover it and set it aside to rest for at least 30 minutes, or longer if you have the time. For our cake flour experiment, we did the same exact thing. 200 grams of cake flour, a healthy sprinkle of kosher salt, and you give that a mix. This time around I stuck to using chopsticks because the whisk got a little bit too messy. Then you're going to do the same thing with your tablespoon of sesame oil and 150 milliliters of warm water. Mix it in thirds at a time and work it into the dough. You can see that this time around it's a lot drier and we were able to work it right away. Then you're going to go ahead and shape it, cover it, and let it rest again for at least 30 minutes or more if you have the time.
And since we're tag teaming this recipe, I'm gonna go ahead and cook the fillings. Now you can fill it with anything you want. I've seen ham, cheese, and corn, which is a good one, and red bean, but today we're gonna do kind of like a cheeseburger kind of a filling. So let's start off by cooking some green and red onions just for really good aromatics. Then we'll cook off some of that marinated ground beef that we have, make sure it's cooked all the way through, and put it in a mixing bowl. Then we're gonna pour cilantro right on top for more aromatics, and of course, because cheddar makes everything better, we're gonna do a hefty sprinkle of that. Mix it together, set it aside, and for our red bean, all we're gonna do is open a can of red bean.
When your dough is rested, go ahead and flour your table, scrape out the dough, and then start to mold it into a log. You might need to dust a little flour if it's a little sticky or it's difficult to work with. Then you'll divide the dough into 6 pieces, or less if you want them to be bigger pieces. Then gently shape them into a ball and set them aside. To assemble, we're going to begin by oiling our hands, then taking a piece and flattening it between our palms. Then you're going to take your filling, starting with the red bean here, just take a giant scoop and then place it into the center of the ball. Then you're going to cup your hands and basically let gravity do the work. You're going to take the edges and allow the ball to kind of fall in between your hands. As it sinks, draw the fingers together and guide the dough over the filling. Then pinch it closed, flatten it, shape it, and then put it directly onto an oiled pan. Then repeat for the rest of your dough. And for the cake flour, we did the same exact thing. We shaped a log and we divided it into 6 pieces. Shape them into a ball and get ready to stuff them. This time around, we did the cheeseburger filling. You're gonna start with just 1 scoop. You don't wanna overstuff it, especially with this cake flour, because this time around, it was a little harder to work with. It wasn't as stretchy, I guess you can say, and it kind of broke on me. So I had a really hard time putting that one together. And when you're done assembling, we're gonna go ahead and get ready to cook them all off. Whoever cooks first gets to eat it first, so I decided to take this one on. On a medium heat, you're gonna cover that pan and let that first side brown. Feel free to check it as often as you need to. Then on the second side, we're gonna add a little water and cover so we can steam it all the way through. When both sides are brown, go ahead and plate and enjoy. On the black plate, we have the all-purpose flour, and on the brown, the cake flour. So there you have it, that's our Oyaki 2.0. It turned out better than the first time, so we're definitely on the right track. But didn't quite have like that soft break that we saw in everyone else's videos, so we're not like 100% happy with it yet. Next time we're gonna try a different ratio again, and pastry flour if we can get our hands on it.
We can also make our own pastry flour by mixing 50-50 all-purpose and cake flour, so hopefully it'll bring that 11 and that 8 right in the middle to about a 9. So at least we think it will. Anyway, hit the subscribe, click a bell, and share it with your friends, and I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you on the next one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.